Welcome to another episode of She's Evolving. I'm Elena, your host and a medical doctor specializing in endocrinology. Today, we are stepping away from the blood tests and the hormone charts, just for a moment, though they always play a role, to talk about something that is the true heartbeat of a woman's life, especially as we cross the threshold of 40 and 50. We're talking about friendship. Not just the casual coffee once a year kind of friendship, but the deep, soul-level connections that sustain us in this second act of our lives.
And I'm Julia, a clinical psychologist. I've spent decades helping women navigate their inner worlds. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that our mirrors don't just reflect our skin or our hair, they reflect the quality of our relationships. If you've ever looked in the mirror lately and felt like you're becoming a version of yourself that your old friends don't quite recognize, or if you've realized that your social circle has grown smaller, perhaps even a bit quieter, this episode is for you. We're exploring how to create true, authentic bonds in maturity. It's a powerful topic, isn't it, Julia? Because for so long, our friendships were defined by proximity or shared stages of life. We were friends with the girls in our dorm, the women we worked with in our 20s, or the other moms at the school gate. But then the 40s hit. The kids grow up, careers plateau or pivot, and suddenly those situational friendships can start to feel a bit thin.
Exactly, and it can be quite a shock to the system. I remember a few years ago when I turned 50, I had this realization that many of my closest friends were people I only talked to about my children or my work. When those topics were removed, there was a strange, echoing silence. I felt a bit lost. I think many of our listeners feel that too, that friendship loneliness that occurs even when your phone is full of contacts.
I felt that too, Julia. In my late 40s, I was so buried in my medical practice and the hormonal shifts of my own perimenopause that I became a bit of a hermit. I realized I had plenty of colleagues and patients, but very few people I could just be with. I remember one evening, sitting in my kitchen, realizing that if I wanted to go for a hike or see a movie, I didn't know who to call who wouldn't want to talk about a prescription or a thyroid issue. It was a wake-up call. I felt like I had forgotten how to be a friend and how to find them.
That's so honest, Elena, and it's actually more common than people think. As a psychologist, I see women who feel guilty about wanting new friends. They feel like they should be set by now. But the truth is, we are evolving. Our needs change. The woman you were at 25 isn't the woman you are at 45. Why should your friendship stay static?
From a biological standpoint, it's fascinating. When we're younger, our brains are often driven by different social imperatives, mating, nesting, building security. But as we move into the menopausal transition, our oxytocin and estrogen levels shift. Some researchers suggest this actually makes us less people-pleasing. We start to value quality over quantity. We lose the patience for shallow talk. We want depth. I love that perspective. It's not that we're becoming grumpy or antisocial. It's that our brains are literally retuning themselves to seek more meaningful resonance. But that creates a challenge. How do we find that resonance in a world that seems built for 20-somethings to socialize? It starts with understanding the why behind the shift. Let's talk a bit about the technical side, but in a way that hits home. When our estrogen drops, it affects our neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine. This can lead to a period of introspection. Women often tell me they feel invisible in public, but what I notice is that they are actually becoming more visible to themselves. They start asking, who actually sees me? Who supports the woman I am becoming, not the woman I used to be? And that's where the emotional work begins. In my practice, I call this the friendship audit. It sounds cold, but it's actually an act of self-love. It's looking at your current circle and asking, does this connection nourish me, or is it just a habit? In our 40s and 50s, we no longer have the time currency to waste on toxic or draining relationships. We realize that our time is finite. That time currency is such a great term. I see it in the clinic all the time. Stress is a major factor in hormonal health. If you are spending your weekends with friends who judge you, compete with you, or leave you feeling exhausted, your cortisol levels stay spiked. That affects your sleep, your weight, your heart health. Choosing the right friends is literally a medical necessity at our age. So true. And let's address the elephant in the room, the fear of rejection. Many women tell me, Julia, I'd love to make new friends, but everyone already has their group. I feel like the new kid in school again, and it's terrifying. I felt that. When I decided to join a local botanical illustration class, something totally outside of medicine, I walked in and saw groups of women laughing and talking. I almost turned around and left. I felt 14 years old again, worried I didn't have the right outfit or the right things to say. And what happened?
I forced myself to stay. I sat down next to a woman who looked just as nervous as I did. We started talking about how hard it was to draw a leaf, and 3 hours later, we were grabbing tea. That woman is now one of my closest confidants. But I had to push past that initial biological threat response, that fear of being the outsider.
That's the key. We have to be willing to be vulnerable in a way we haven't been in years. In our 20s, vulnerability was easier because we were all works in progress. By 45, we often wear a mask of, I have it all together. To make a real friend, you have to be willing to take that mask off and say, actually, I'm struggling with my teenager, or I'm feeling really unsure about my career right now. Let's dive into some of the myths we hear, because I think they stop women from even trying. One I hear often is, if we haven't been friends for 20 years, it's not a real friendship. Oh, that's a huge myth. Longevity does not equal intimacy. You can know someone for 30 years and only ever talk about the weather and the neighbors. Conversely, you can meet someone at 52, and because you both have a lifetime of experience and a lack of pretense, you can reach a level of soul-deep connection in 6 months that you never had with your childhood best friend.
I agree. Some of my most vital, health-giving friendships are less than 5 years old. There's something refreshing about being known for who you are now without the baggage of who you were at 16. Another myth is that women our age are too busy for new friends.
We are busy, but we prioritize what we value. The myth is that friendship should be effortless. It's not. It's like exercise or a healthy diet. You have to schedule it, you have to show up when you're tired, you have to reach out first. I always tell my patients, if you're waiting for the perfect time to meet friends or for someone to discover you, you'll be waiting a long time. You have to be the architect of your own social life.
And what about the work friend myth? Many women think that the people they work with can't be true friends. That's a missed opportunity. We spend so much time at work. The key is moving the relationship from the professional space to the personal space. It's that transition, inviting them for a walk on a Saturday or sharing a personal story. That bridges the gap. I've also had listeners ask about digital friendships. In our 40s and 50s, many of us are finding communities online, groups for menopause, for hobbies, for specific life transitions. Can those be true bonds? Absolutely, as long as they aren't only digital. The human brain still craves eye contact and the physical presence of others, what we call limbic resonance. But the internet is a fantastic filter. It helps us find people with our specific interests or challenges. The trick is to take those connections into the real world whenever possible, even if it's just a long video call where you both have a glass of wine. I want to touch on something a bit more sensitive, the drifting apart. Sometimes to make room for new, true connections, we have to let go of old ones that no longer fit. How do we do that without guilt?
It's about blessing and releasing. Not every friendship is meant to be a forever friendship. Some were reason or season friendships. Maybe you were friends because your kids were in the same playgroup. Now that the kids are in college, you realize you have nothing in common. That's okay. You can hold gratitude for that season without forcing the relationship to continue in a way that feels hollow. Letting go creates the emotional space and the actual time to find the women who resonate with your current frequency. That's beautiful. Resonating with your current frequency. As an endocrinologist, I think of it as finding someone whose rhythm matches yours. When we are in sync with our friends, our nervous systems actually regulate each other. It's called co-regulation. A good friend can literally lower your heart rate and balance your hormones just by sitting next to you and listening. So, for the woman listening right now who feels a bit isolated, what's the first step? From my side, I'd say check your energy. If you're exhausted and depleted, you won't have the spark to connect. Take care of your foundations, your sleep, your nutrition, your hormones. When you feel good in your own skin, you radiate a kind of confidence that attracts others. And from the psychological side, I'd say start small. You don't need a squad, you just need one. Look for micro connections. Smile at the woman in the gym. Ask a follow-up question to a neighbor.
Be the one who sends the text saying, "I saw this and thought of you." True bonds are built in the small, consistent moments of showing up. And don't be afraid to be the initiator. Most women our age are also sitting at home wishing someone would invite them out. Be the one who makes the move. It's not desperate, it's courageous.
Exactly. We are all evolving, as our podcast name says. And part of that evolution is recognizing that we deserve to be seen, heard, and supported by women who truly get us.
As we wrap up this conversation, I want to leave you with a thought. Your 40s, 50s, and beyond are not a time of fading away. They are a time of refining. Just as we refine our style or our career goals, we refine our friendships. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to start building the most authentic social circle of your life. Your tribe is out there, waiting for you to find them, but they can't find you if you're hiding. So take a breath, step out of your comfort zone, and reach out. You might be surprised at who is waiting to reach back. Thank you for joining us today on She's Evolving. If this episode touched you, please share it with a woman in your life, maybe even that person you've been meaning to reconnect with. It could be the start of a whole new chapter. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We love hearing your stories of growth and connection. Until next time, keep evolving, keep reaching out, and remember, you are never alone on this journey. We'll see you in the next episode, where we'll continue to explore what it means to live vibrantly and authentically in our prime. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye. Stay connected.
You know, Julia, it's fascinating because as we dive deeper into this topic of friendship after 40, I start to see a very clear bridge between what I see in the clinic and what you see in your therapy room. We often think of friendships as just a social thing, something that's nice to have but not essential, like a hobby. But from a medical perspective, the lack of deep, meaningful connection and maturity is a literal health risk. I've seen women whose inflammatory markers improve simply because they finally found a group of women where they feel safe. It's the power of oxytocin, the cuddle hormone or bonding hormone, which acts as a natural buffer against the cortisol spikes we experience during perimenopause and menopause. When we are with true friends, our nervous system finally gets the signal that it's okay to downshift from fight or flight into rest and digest.
That is so profound, Elena, and it resonates perfectly with the psychological side of things. In my practice, I often talk about the loneliness of the crowded room. Many women in their late 40s and 50s are technically very social. They have colleagues, they talk to other parents at school events, they have neighbors, but they don't feel connected. There's a mask of "I have it all together" that we wear for so long that we forget how to take it off. And that brings us to one of the biggest myths I want us to tackle today, the idea that at this age, everyone already has their friend group set in stone. I hear this all the time. Women tell me, "Julia, why bother? Everyone already has their bestie from high school or college. There's no room for me."
Oh, I hear that one too. And it's such a limiting belief. It's almost like we think of friendship as a musical chairs game, where the music stopped when we were 25, and if you don't have a seat, you're out. But the reality is that the chairs are constantly moving. People move cities, people go through divorces, people's interests change. The friend you had at 30 might not be the person who understands your journey at 50, and that's okay. It doesn't mean the old friendship was a failure. It just means there is space for a new type of resonance.
Exactly. And let's be honest, some of those old friendships are held together by nothing but history. We stay in them because of the sunk cost fallacy. We've put 20 years in, so we feel obligated to stay, even if we no longer have anything in common. Making new friends after 40 is actually an incredible opportunity because it's the first time in our lives we are choosing friends based on who we are now, rather than who we were in a dorm room or a playground. It's friendship based on shared values and present-day evolution, not just shared history. That leads me to a question we got from a listener named Sandra. She asked, "How do I even start? I feel like I've forgotten how to date for friends. It feels awkward to ask a woman I just met for coffee. Is it just me?" Sandra, it is definitely not just you. It feels awkward because it is a bit like dating. You're putting yourself out there, you're risking rejection, and you're showing interest. But here is the secret. Almost every woman you see at that yoga class, or that professional seminar, or even in the supermarket aisle is also craving connection. We are living through what experts call a loneliness epidemic, particularly among women in midlife, who are often in the sandwich generation, taking care of kids and aging parents simultaneously. They are starved for a conversation that is just about them. So when you ask someone for coffee, you aren't being a burden. You might be giving them the highlight of their week. I love that perspective. And medically speaking, that awkwardness Sandra feels, that's just a small spike in adrenaline because she's stepping out of her comfort zone. But the reward, the potential for a new bond, is worth that temporary discomfort. I often tell my patients to treat social connection like a prescription. If I told you that having a heart-to-heart talk twice a week would lower your blood pressure and improve your sleep better than a pill, you'd do it, right? Well, the data shows it actually does. It really does. And another myth we need to bust is that new friendships have to be effortless. We have this romanticized idea that we'll meet a soul sister and everything will just click perfectly from day one. But real intimacy is built in the low-stakes moments. It's the consistent check-ins, the "I saw this and thought of you" texts, the showing up when things aren't perfect. After 40, we have less time, so we have to be more intentional. We can't rely on the forced proximity of school or work anymore. We have to create the proximity.
That intentionality is key. I've noticed that in my own life, Julia. I used to wait for things to happen. Now, if I meet a woman whose energy I admire, I make it a point to follow up. And I've learned to embrace the different categories of friends. You don't need one person to be everything. You might have your walking friend who keeps you active, your work friend who understands your professional drive, and your deep dive friend who you call when life feels heavy.
That's such an important distinction. We put so much pressure on one best friend to fulfill every emotional need. But in maturity, a diversified portfolio of friendships is much healthier. It allows us to show different facets of ourselves. And speaking of showing ourselves, we have to talk about vulnerability. You cannot build a true bond if you're only showing the highlight reel. If you only talk about your successes, your perfect kids, and your promotions, you're building an audience, not a friendship. Friendship requires the me too moments. Me too, I'm struggling with my teenager. Me too, I'm feeling insecure about these changes in my body. That is where the glue is. The glue, I love that. It's the shared vulnerability that creates the safety. And Julia, I want to touch on something a bit more sensitive. What about the friendships that are fading? Many women in their 40s feel guilty because they realize they are outgrowing certain people. They feel like they are betraying a long-term friend because the connection feels forced now.
That guilt is so heavy, Elena. But think of it this way. Our lives are like a garden. Some plants are perennials. They stay for every season. Others are annuals. They are beautiful, they serve a purpose for a specific time, and then they naturally reach the end of their cycle. Letting a friendship go or letting it transition into a more distant acquaintance isn't a failure. It's making room for the person you are becoming. If you are constantly pouring energy into a relationship that drains you or where you have to shrink yourself to fit, you won't have the energy to cultivate new, life-giving connections.
It's about energy conservation, which is something we talk about a lot in endocrinology. As we age, our metabolic flexibility changes, and our emotional energy becomes a finite resource too. We have to be selective about where we invest it. I want our listeners to hear this. It is okay to prioritize yourself. It is okay to seek out women who make you feel energized rather than exhausted. Absolutely. And as we move toward the end of this conversation, I want to leave everyone with a challenge. Think of one woman you've met recently, maybe someone you've only spoken to briefly, who you felt a spark of curiosity about. Maybe it's her laugh, her perspective, or the way she carries herself. This week, send that text. Invite her for a 15-minute walk or a quick coffee. Don't wait for the perfect time, because in our 40s and 50s, the perfect time doesn't exist. There is only now. That is a beautiful challenge, Julia. And remember, your body, your brain, and your heart will thank you for it. These connections are the invisible threads that keep us resilient. They are the safety net that allows us to take risks and reinvent ourselves at any age. You are not past the age of making new friends. You are at the perfect age because you finally know who you are and what you have to offer.
Well said, Elena. This journey of evolution isn't meant to be walked alone. She's evolving, and that she is plural. It's all of us together. If this conversation touched you today, if it made you think of a friend, old or new, please share this episode with her.
Let it be the opening for a deeper conversation between you two.
Yes, let this be your icebreaker. Send it with a note saying, "I listened to this and thought of our connection." It's a simple way to start building that bridge. Thank you for being with us today. Your presence in this community means the world to us.
We are so grateful to be part of your journey.
Keep evolving, keep reaching out, and remember, the best connections of your life might still be ahead of you. See you in the next episode, where we'll continue to explore what it means to live vibrantly and authentically in this incredible stage of life. Until then, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Goodbye for now, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next Heart to Heart. You've got this, and we've got you. High fives and hugs to all of you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See you soon.